get a little bit uncomfortable by telling you the truths that you sometimes don't even know and don't even see. And these are your true friends.
You are your own greatest ally or enemy. Awaken the warrior within you. Take charge of your inner kingdom. Welcome to the Warrior Growth Academy podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Warrior Growth Academy podcast, where we build our mental strength to not just survive in this life, but to thrive. Welcome to this new episode. It's been a little while. The last time we've posted some podcasts, it's been a while. We even recorded them because then we took the time to post them little by little, but that was basically before even launching the Warrior Growth Academy, which was in the beginning of the year. And now we are back at the roots because basically the podcast started even before the Academy, and I did about, I think, 80 or 90 solo episodes. And back then, initially, it was just me at home with a microphone. There was no camera. So thank you so much for Studio 760 Media for hosting us and for opening up this space. And also, especially at that time, it's been a while, almost 2 years or even more than 2 years. But I remember first, 50 episodes, it was literally me reading word for word because I was kind of scared that the ideas will not come out the right way or I will not say the right things. And then at a little point, I got reminded by some friends that actually when I speak with them from the heart, or when I speak on a stage, or when I speak anywhere else than the podcast, they connected more with me. And it made me realize that why am I speaking and reading a script? As logical as it sounds, it's crazy how sometimes we don't see the reality or the truth in front of us. So this has been quite a little growth experience and also improvement with time. And today we're gonna open up a new chapter, and I have this is actually another episode. So basically I have the whole episode just on one page. I won't even read this. These are just little reminders, but I'm gonna basically speak from the heart and go with the flow. So thank you for being here. First of all, I don't know what's the number of the episode. I gotta check. I know it's 100 something, but thank you for being here, listening to this episode. We got a very interesting subject today. By the way, my solo episodes, I'll probably keep them always around 10, maybe 20 minutes because first of all, I want to respect your time. Second of all, these are subjects I could technically talk for hours, and I want to keep it simple and also don't want to carry away. And also I want to keep it simple and applicable. So therefore, I'm making sure that, my notes are really kind of the gist of it, the juice of the juice, just the meat, no fat, no bones. And we're going to see how it goes because, again, I don't really have a script. I have a few basically notes to guide me or maybe for reminders if ever I forget what I'm even talking about. But the goal is really to every single time touch upon a little subject that usually are very important. At least, that's why I'm interested in them, and I'm a geek of growth, of not just the warrior mindset, just growth in life, becoming better human beings, becoming stronger human beings, because sadly, I believe that in today's society, we are a lot weak, or basically a lot of people are weak, and I include myself in this. Everyone has weaknesses, but the subject of today is how to identify and break those weaknesses. So number one, weaknesses are a natural part of human beings. There's no such thing as just a strong human being, depending what age you are, but usually it's a lifelong growth process. So the idea is to not see weaknesses as something that is necessarily bad, but it doesn't mean you just want to ignore them or just live with them and tell yourself or tell others, well, this is who I am. There is a middle ground, or I don't know if we can call it a middle ground, but basically there is a place where you can observe your weaknesses, still accept them, but still want to become better and to basically break them, or to kind of make those weaknesses irrelevant because you've built so much strength around that weakness. Let's say it touches one certain area of your life. So one of the things, and again, I'm gonna, look at my notes at the same time, because if you know me, I can just kind of go left and right and never come down. So I want to make sure that we understand that, again, weaknesses are really part of us, but that the warriors, or basically anyone who wants to grow, we confront them. So it is not something you just want to forget or brush under the couch or under the rug, actually, is the expression, but you want to make sure that you confront them. You don't want to avoid them. You don't want to ignore them. And a fun fact is that often weaknesses, not always, but often, weaknesses are your strengths, but in the shadow form. So for example, if let's say you're arrogant, basically it is confidence, but that is not controlled, or that comes out in the wrong way. And that's the whole concept of archetypes by Carl Jung and other psychoanalysis after those years, is that light and shadow concept of our personalities. It is not all good and all bad. When we say, you are, for example, again, Warrior Growth Academy podcast, of course, when we say the light part of a warrior is someone who fights for a purpose, someone who's disciplined, someone who doesn't need, doesn't need the glamour of life, someone very minimalistic. Well, the shadow part of that is not someone who's basically all the opposite of that. There are parts, yes, but for example, the warrior in his light or her light can will very well, of course, fight, figuratively, metaphorically, or literally, will fight, but that fight will be for greater purpose. It will not be a fight for glory. It will not be, look at me, I'm stronger than you, or look at me, I fought and these are my scars, please acclaim me or clap for me. So we see that basically the difference is in the intention, because on the surface, technically, it could look exactly the same. And again, the fighting per se can be very metaphorical, but even if you are, let's say, a very driven career person and you're fighting at your job in order to provide for your family, it could come from a dark place, a shadow place of, I just want my kids, my wife, or my husband, or the people around me to kind of glamorize me because I'm putting everything to the side for my career so I can provide and bring money to the home. Whereas if you are literally fighting, or not really literally, but you know what I'm saying. If you're fighting for your family, you're not waiting for, coming home and then clapping for you, and also kind of seeing you as this person that, sacrifices so much. You just literally want their good. So sometimes even probably you will work less because you see that actually your family just needs your presence. They don't need you working more hours so you can go on a longer vacation, or you can fly business class instead of regular class, right? So again, it really comes from the motivation and the intention. These are the key words. So we also got to understand, weaknesses are not things that are kind of that we chose necessarily. Weaknesses are often just things that maybe we forgot or put to the side, but also are things that basically we were raised to be, or we learned, right? If, let's say, your parents never gave you unconditional love or never even expressed love, you will, in a certain way, need validation from others. So then, especially if today we live in the social media world, in the internet and everything, it's not as if you made a conscious decision, or even less, it's not as if you are flawed or you are or it's your stupid choice, quote unquote, that you need this. It's just simply you didn't know better, and that's what you got kind of as a program as coming into this world. So then again, the goal is just to see that and then make the steps, and we'll get into the steps how to identify and how to break them. But the goal is basically just to observe and then work through it, so then you don't need any more that external validation, because you, number one, fulfill that love from the inside, and also obviously you surround yourself with people that give you real and unconditional love, and it's not about either your status or your likes on Instagram or whatever you do for those people, but it's really truly because they love you. And this is the kind of friends or family or coworkers or business partners that you want around you. I hope that makes sense so far. Number one, I want to mix always a little bit of science and also ancient philosophy instead of just going kind of fact by fact, because I don't know, just to add some color, just to add some texture to the thing. But you know what, basically what supports and even I would say prove the science behind, identifying and breaking our weaknesses is that our weaknesses are basically in our mind. And in science and in biology, there's something called neuroplasticity. I'm 100% sure you already heard of that, which are basically the neural pathways in our brain. And the stronger we make connections every time we live an experience, every time we reinforce a thought, every time we think a thought, every time we hear something from someone else or we see something happening, anyways, and every time a certain experience is created and repeated, those neural pathways are basically reinforced. So it's normal, again, if something was happening on and on and on, that the negative belief or the weakness was basically created and reinforced. And the reality and the beauty of the brain and the neuroplasticity is that we can create new ones and reinforce new ones consciously. Meaning you observe what is the situation, what's the status, what's kind of under the roof, and you're like, you know what, I'm not really satisfied with this thing. So then you basically build the quote unquote opposite, and you reinforce it through action, thoughts, and behavior. And basically that new neural pathway becomes stronger and the older one becomes weaker. It's kind of the concept of starving the old and feeding the new. You don't necessarily fight, and that's very important. You don't break beliefs by fighting them, by saying you're not true or you're dumb or no, this is not what I want. This doesn't erase the belief or the neural pathways. What erases them is building a new one that is kind of the opposite or contrary, and basically feeding that one, and the older one or the bad one starves and basically dilutes. And in ancient philosophy, there was Lao Tzu, who was Lao Tzu? I think he was one of the ancient Eastern philosophers who was really basically his main philosophy was about conquering yourself. So it's repeated throughout not only ancient philosophy, but psychology in all forms, in different places in the world throughout times. It's really something that you, in a way, sometimes just sounds kind of fancy, or we don't even understand what it means. But this is exactly what it means when we talk about conquering yourself. It's basically you in your mind mostly, but in a way, if we involve your whole personality, your body, everything that comes with it, you as a whole, you are your own greatest ally or enemy. And sometimes, actually always, a little bit of both, but it depends what's the weight and what's the scale. And obviously we want to move as much as possible as us being our own allies. It means we function, we think, we act in our greater benefit rather than something that hurts us, something that holds us down, basically. So this is on the concept of conquering yourself. And again, as simple as it sounds, obviously, in a little quote, we all shared those quotes on Instagram, and you read it, you're like, yes, I agree. But the real and the true idea is applying it and even understanding it on a different level than just the surface, which, kind of in a way is almost everyone can agree with it, right? Same as time is money. Almost everyone can agree. But then the same people that, let's say, would say, yes, time is money, don't waste my time because it's money. Well, that same person watches Netflix 2 hours a day. So that's kind of wasting time. So you see, there's a huge difference between the actual just saying the quote or knowing even of it and truly applying it. On the psychology part, I mentioned already Carl Jung with the archetype, the light and the shadow, but he says something very interesting. You make the unconscious conscious. If you don't make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Because basically a lot of times the weaknesses are kind of in our unconscious. And that's why some people say, well, this is who I am. Deal with it. I am like this. Well, it's basically we feel this is not something that we can control. We feel this is something often we don't even realize, and you act like this, and you don't understand why some people don't like you, or you don't understand why some people react in an angry way to you. But basically, a lot of the things are happening in our unconscious, and until we bring it to the conscious, we are kind of slaves of our fate in this case. So, to put simply, and obviously this is bigger than just, one podcast, this is bigger than just a few principles, but one of the ways to identifying your weaknesses and breaking them, number one, and that's almost, the golden rule for any type of growth, is to sit with yourself and bring awareness and observe yourself. I would suggest, this is not the only way, but at the end of the day, when kind of the day is behind you and you are kind of in the comfort of your day, ideally you're not distracted by a movie, by your phone, you take some time and you look at your day. And the goal is to look for patterns. What are the things that repeat? What are the things that, you realize that you do often? And it's not even about doing. Sometimes it's just about thinking. Let's say your boss does something at least once a week, and every time you think certain things of them. This is a pattern. This is something that is, again, often unconscious, that is kind of a program. And the goal, and obviously here the subject, is the weaknesses are basically the things that you feel are holding you down, the things that are hurting you, right? So some patterns in our brain and in our system are beneficial for us, right? So the goal in this case is to mainly put some focus on the patterns that are hurting you, that are bringing you down, that are holding you back, because these are the things basically you pay the price by not living a life where you are more happy and fulfilled, where you are at your greatest potential, because you have weaknesses that are holding you back. It's kind of like you have chains over your legs with weights, and you're walking and you're trying to run, and you are able to run. You know how to run, but those weights are at your feet. And until you, number one, realize that you have weights at your feet, and two, you learn how to break them and leave them behind, well, you will not be able to run, as simply as this. Then you can also, and that's actually even sometimes a better way, ask for feedback. If your friends are not able to give you honest and real feedback about what are your weaknesses, where are the places that you fall short, I'm sorry, but these are not your real friends. Because if your friends are just yes people, if your friends are just party people, if your friends are just there when it's convenient, when it's fun, when it's light, when everyone is happy, these are not your real friends. Or at least, and I'm not trying to shit on your friends, but at least you can find better friends that really and truly deeply want your greater good and are willing to get a little bit uncomfortable by telling you the truths that you sometimes don't even know and don't even see. And these are your true friends. So ask for feedback. Say that you are willing to receive feedback, even if it will hurt, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. So state that and say it sincerely. And the goal of that exercise is not for them just to give you feedback on, how you could maybe work out 2 times more a week. No, we're talking about like real stuff, like real things that they saw in little moments that kind of maybe annoyed them, or they just see that this is not really you, or you could do better. And then again, and you have more awareness. And awareness is the step number 1. Then the next step is basically identify what is in a way the opposite of that weakness. How can you build something and focus more on something that will basically, again, feed the new and starve the old? So if, for example, as simple as if you are lazy, and after work you get home and you always have those big dreams, you always tell your friends that you will do this and you will do that, but you get home and you watch like TV for 2 hours, and then you play a little bit of video games, and then you're on your phone, and basically you quote unquote waste your whole evening. Well, basically you need to build discipline, and you also need to know what to build discipline on. It doesn't mean it needs to be, 5 hours of meditation. It can be going outside. It can be even seeing friends, but maybe not drinking every single night. It can be working out more. It can be reading books. It can be watching online classes. It can be working on your mind, on your body, on your soul. You have 1,000 possible things you can work on. But bottom line, obviously, if you see a pattern of laziness, the opposite is discipline. If you see a pattern of unhealthy eating, the opposite is healthy eating. So it's kind of self-explanatory. It's usually very simple because it's, again, the complete opposite. And also, another thing, and it's, I think that's also a very important and often very painful thing, is that we focus, especially when you start bringing awareness and you see the weaknesses, and it is uncomfortable and it's not something nice to look at. You visualize, and then especially when you set some goals and you know what you need to work on, you visualize that future you, those goals, as something that you want to obtain and reach, but then you think about that every single day. And that reminds you that you're not there yet. And that's a huge mistake, because this is a progress killer. This is a growth killer, because it's guaranteed that you will basically sabotage yourself, because the negativity of the pressure, the negativity in your mind is impossible to sustain the growth and the discipline and you basically doing the work and changing the things, because those things, the neural pathways, your habits, your patterns, are only changed by repetition. It's the consistency. It's not after 1 week, whatever we're talking about, it's not after 1 week that you will change. So bottom line, the idea is to have this North Star that sometime you can look at and know what's the ideal, what's the future you, but then you just focus and you celebrate the progress and just those little steps. Even if you don't see yet the benefits and the results, you can always celebrate and see how you feel right after. Even if literally the only result of, let's say, eating healthy today is you being proud of you being healthy or healthier, that's a win. And that's focusing on the progress. Whereas if, let's say, you want to lose 10 pounds and you're looking at your belly after even 5 days of eating super clean, obviously you're going to be like, well, nothing changed, might as well go to the old habits, right? So again, and that's a universal law of growth, do not focus on the goals too much. Yes, you set goals. Yes, you have a future vision of yourself, but do not focus too much because you're going to kill your momentum. Guaranteed you will not have the willpower, the motivation, the inspiration to continue after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks if every day you remind yourself, I'm not there yet. This is a progress killer. So focus on literally just the wins of doing the work, of doing the habit, of doing and moving in the right direction. And that itself is a win, and that's enough. And the results, trust me, it's scientific. They will come. There's no way in the world that you, for example, go to the gym every single day and don't have results at some point. Even if you're doing all wrong at the gym, even if you're not even doing the right exercises, you might not have the optimal results, but still you will have results. There's no way you don't eat healthier and don't feel a certain way in your body after some time. So bottom line, focus simply on the growth, not on the growth, on the progress and on the baby steps. All right. Again, I don't want to get carried away. I don't even know what the time is, and I'm pretty sure I'm already at the time. So remember that this basically what it gives you, the fact of working on your weaknesses and of breaking them, and also on building your strengths and working on your strengths. And here, that's another important thing. There's a huge difference between being aware of your weaknesses and focusing on them. You don't want to focus and think of them. Again, remember the neural pathway and all the concept of it's not about thinking and trying to fight the idea, the thing that is in your mind that it will break it. No, it's by building the new. So do not over focus on the weakness, but just focus on the growth. And you will see from that, you will feel more freedom because you feel less literally, again, that's a metaphor, obviously, but you feel that those chains at your feet and those weights are breaking. So you literally feel more free of your impulses, but also you feel more confident, you feel more strong. So again, those metaphors are beautiful because it's literally what you feel in the process. And also in the process, by being radically honest with yourself, you build that confidence and you build that self-trust, that trust in yourself that you are able to change, that you are able to make positive changes in your life. And that basically, in a way, you are the master of your destiny, because you are not and you will not be the master of your life and the master of your destiny by being weak. You can only be it by being strong and by building your strengths. So all that to say, make sure that you identify and you work on your weaknesses. I think this is it for today. I have no idea how it went, but this is a one take. This is going with the flow. This was a few sentences of notes in my little notepad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if it's not the case, and I will see you at the next episode.